People who watch security cameras for a living, what creepy things have you tried to forget? I work in a retail store, and for a while I worked security here. Watching the security cameras wasn't technically my job, but we were consistently short-handed in that department and the manager was grooming me for promotion, so I got to fill in and watch the cameras occasionally. One day when we were reviewing footage from overnights, we saw this teenager calmly set down his shopping basket, take off his hat and glasses, and just charge at a wall. Hit it head on. He did this 2 more times. When he was done, his face was a bloody mess, and he put his hat and glasses back on and just left. Weirded me right the hell out. One day when we were reviewing footage from overnights, we saw this teenager calmly set down his shopping basket, take off his hat and glasses, and just charge at a wall. Hit it head on. He did this 2 more times. When he was done, his face was a bloody mess, and he put his hat and glasses back on and just left. Weirded me right the hell out. Wrong platform I bet. I was working at pub in Sydney and watching the CCTV when I saw a guy continually cross and uncross his legs while playing a poker/slot machine. After a few minutes he walked to a corner of the room, took a shit, and proceeded to go back to playing his machine. Talk about being addicted. Worked as a harbor master a while ago. Had to check the marina's cameras after a boat was abandoned at our docks. I was looking for the owner. I looked on the tape from the boat's first night in the marina. The man who had sailed the boat in was standing on the end of his boat for 2 hours, barely moving. Then at 1:30 AM he just walked off the back and dropped into the water. He never came back up. Never found his body. Freaky. Can you tell me a little bit about what qualifications are required to be a harbor master? Well, first you need a bachelor's in boats. That takes about 4 to 8 years. Not for a living, but I have had security cameras for the last 10 years at my house. A guy was shot 7 times in front of my house, but I only caught the audio. I've had random people walk around the front of the house looking for anything to steal, and actually stealing shit several times. Countless instances where people come up to break into my car until they realize the motion light kicks on, and we have cameras. Most of the time people breaking into cars have a large tool bag over their shoulder. It's so amazing about the number of times people come up to my house doing weird shit. If I didn't have the cameras I wouldn't know about hardly any of this shit. One pro tip for anyone installing cameras, make sure you put lots of signs saying that there is video surveillance, otherwise you just end up with a lot of footage of people stealing stuff. A guy was shot 7 times in front of my house, but I only caught the audio. Jeez. You'd think he'd stop walking by your house after, like, the 3rd time. Where the heck do you live lol edit? Wow, why did this get 8k upvotes haha. Felony flats edit. Thanks for the gold kind stranger. New Fortnite location? Saw a chicken walk up the side of a tree at 2 AM. This one's too much even for Livleak. Livbeak. Mostly lots of sex. I've had to turn on the microphone and tell them to stop it, or they'll be thrown out of the college gym. I have just started narrating in the voice of David Attenborough, and here we observe the mating habits of young Homo sapiens in their natural habitats. Sadly the young male is underendowed. Hey fuck you dude. Was watching CCTV footage of a parking deck, and on the 9th level there's this guy sitting in the middle of the deck, banging his head on one of the pillars. All of a sudden the guy just stops and runs to the edge. Without stopping or jumping, he flings himself over the edge. I immediately called dispatch and told them what had happened. Few days later I was offered counseling for those events. I'm glad you were. A lad I grew up with worked security at a large shopping mall. Security get radioed to a jumper. He is first on scene. Blood everywhere. Body in a complete state. After emergency services left the scene, they washed down the bus access road, and he was ordered back to work. He wasn't offered counseling or a day off to gather his thoughts. I hope you're doing better now. I used to do it support for a charity that supplied housing and support for homeless people. A large proportion also had mental health issues, so there were a fair amount of interesting events that happened. Being in it, I avoided experiencing most of it firsthand, though I was threatened with being stabbed on about my 3rd day. Anyway, I come in one Monday, and there's an email labeled urgent, saying there was an incident at the stairwell of one of the properties on Sunday night, and could I pull the relevant CCTV footage, and put it on a DVD. I had to do this fairly frequently. I skip through the footage, find the incident, usually a fight or blatant drug dealing, and burn it to DVD for the police. The email never mentioned what the incident was, so I skip through the footage and watch as a clearly very agitated man ties a rope around a stair rail at the top of the stairs. Then his neck looks over the rail and then just casually tips forward over it. The rope flipped him round and he dangled there twitching for far too long before he just stopped. So yeah, that was a fun Monday. They really should have warned you. That's a hell of a thing to just expect someone to watch and record. Wasn't a security officer, but I worked at a 24/7 gas station for a while. One night my coworker accidentally killed himself while at work, and I made the mistake of watching the footage. He went to the back of the store with a bag of drugs, probably cocaine, snorted it and started acting funny for about 10 minutes. He then sits in the back office and gets fidgety/thrashing around until finally he just goes limp in the chair. He had died of a heart attack and sat there for 5 hours before anybody came in, thought the absence of an employee was strange, and called the cops. It was really weird seeing people come in and act all pissy for the lack of service. They'd just leave thinking someone was lazy. But nah, dude was dead. Username checks out. Okay. Not security cameras per se, but I had a SOC type job monitoring corporate internet usage. We had an image inspector watching people's web traffic, and it would throw up questionable images that someone on the network downloaded onto the big SOC screen. Being a medical related company, there were a lot of breast cancer type traffic that would throw off the porn detectors, which is why we watched in real time. One time I was sitting at the desk overnight, nobody should have been working, and suddenly the SOC screen turned into a wall of graphic child porn. Some genius took his laptop home, went into work, and started browsing so as to avoid being caught by his ISP. He's in prison now. This incident is a large part of why I no longer do that kind of work, or corporate forensics. They make it sound like it's all catching hackers and espionage, but in reality, it's mostly looking at other people's porn. Honestly, thanks to you, there's now one less sicko at large. Not for a living, but we had security cameras installed on the property whilst we were living in South Africa. We had a monitor set up next to the bed, so we could see what was happening on the 4 cameras without having to get up out of bed. One night we heard something, so we turn on the monitor and see nothing unusual. I'm ready to go back to sleep, but my partner thinks something is off about one of the cameras. Does this camera look like it's pointing in a different direction slightly, she asks. No. Same as always, and it's back to bed for me. She isn't convinced, so she starts watching the recordings. True enough, footage of some dude prowling around on the property and the camera catches him adjusting it. The terrifying bit, the way his face looked beneath the balaclava. Murder mask is what Miso called it. Pretty creepy shit. Not creepy but funny. We have security camera footage of one of my co-workers slipping and falling on his ass while operating a floor cleaning machine. The only thing that bothered me about it is the manager on duty decided to text the video to everyone in the company. I thought that was a bit shitty and probably unethical in some way. Definitely unethical. Funny, but wrong. I work it at a school, and last Easter we had a break-in. We found the footage of the guy going in at 2 PM, leaving at around 3, and not really taking anything. Fast forward to 7 PM and the guy comes back in and is walking around the auditorium till 6 AM the next morning. In that time he proceeded to strip into his underwear, steal and wear a mask the Japanese exchange students made for the teacher, and smoke a shit ton. He managed to steal 6 full bags of random items. We've dubbed him as the jack-off bandit. Missed your chance at calling him the hijacker. Was a security coordinator for a large electric company and had access to like 80 plus facilities CCTV infrastructures. Was doing maintenance check on some random train station at like 3 AM. Panned a camera as far to the right as possible to check that it was functioning, and this dude was on all fours eating a deer in the middle of the tracks. Watched him for like 10 minutes and went to get the other guy on shift. When I came back, the dude was gone. rewound it, and the dude stopped munching on the carcass, wiped the gore off his face, and walked into the woods like he didn't have a care in the world. He's just on a hardcore paleo diet. Nothing to see here. What the fuck, edit? Thank you for the silver. I know. What kind of monster eats without a table? If you're new here, hey, how are you doing? If you're subscribed, hey, how are you doing? It's very good to see you. If you are new, and you too want an extra greeting at the end of each episode, subscribe. Anyway, see you next time.